Hello everyone and welcome to this little stream. This is going to be an introduction on 3D modelling. Now this is primarily designed for my 3D modelling students. I teach in the college, but if you on YouTube are watching this and you get some use out of it, happy days. This is designed to be a little companion series to my teaching of a 3D modelling class. I'm going to be teaching individual principles of 3D modelling and also some videos just showing small projects being made from start to finish. This first little video, first of a two-part video, just a very brief introduction to 3D modelling, what 3D modelling is. It's not going to cover everything, it's just going to cover some absolute basics. So let's get stuck in and we'll talk through more as we go. So here we are in 3D Studio Max. This is your default view here. We can see that we have 4 viewports, top, front, left, and the perspective view. I prefer working the perspective view, so I'm just going to go to the middle here until we get this little crosshair cursor and just drag that up bigger. So still got a wee bit of those other 3 there, but I'm mainly going to work on this one. This wee video, I'm not really going to go into the UI. I'm going to save that for the next video. I'm just going to do some very basic explanation of what a 3D model is, what it consists of. So over here on the right, we can see we've got this wee panel, and we've got a wee box here that says standard primitives, and then underneath it says box, sphere, cylinder, torus, blah blah. In 3D Studio Max, we start off with shapes called primitives. If we click on this, we've got a lot more stuff. We've got standard primitives, extended primitives, compound objects, blah blah, loads and loads of stuff. But basically, most of the time, 90% of the time, we're going to start in standard primitives. And here we've got stuff like box, cone, blah blah. I'm just going to drag out a box here. Apologies if my computer's a wee bit laggy. Doing this and the video stream at the same time can be a bit difficult. And apologise for the sound quality as well. We're just going off my webcam mic, which is terrible. You can probably also hear my fan on my laptop. I think I'm basically breaking my laptop's back here trying to do all this at once. So hopefully you can hear my voice over the sound of that. But I'm dragging out a couple of simple primitives here. I've got a cube, a cone, and we'll bring out a sphere as well. So there I've made 3 primitives. Literally just when you click on each one, it highlights it blue. And then whenever you click and drag on the canvas, you can create that shape. And then you can just click it again to get out of that mode. Or sort of actually that doesn't work, hit escape just to get out of that mode so you can select other stuff. I'm going to work on the box here. I'm going to select the box. You can see it's a nice wee plain purple box. Really useful key to hit is F4. F4 switches on a wireframe overlay on your shapes. So you can see it a wee bit better on the sphere here. If I select this sphere, you can see a little grid of all the individual squares, what are known as polygons. If I press F4, we can toggle that on and off. You can see there's a wee blue line highlighting around it to show that this is the active selected object. Select the cube, we'll get the same thing. Select the sphere, cone, whatever object we have selected has a wee blue outline around it. But if we press F4, we also get that wireframe overlay, which is really useful, really good when we come to edit and manipulate our polygons, come to manipulate our shapes or primitives. Okay, so we've got these. How do we go from a basic shape like a sphere or a box into a complex character or a vehicle or a gun or a building, whatever? Primitive objects, we can't really do too much with them. Primitives, if I go over to this second wee button here, again I'll explain more about these in the next video, but if I go over to this next wee tab, you can see it gives us some options for our individual shapes. Now different ones have different options. The cone has slightly different options to the cube, and the sphere has slightly different options again. But if we just stick at the cube here, what we get is length, width and height, and I can adjust these, and you can see that as I adjust them, it changes in the canvas view. Another thing I can do, I can change how many segments I want this to be divided into. So at the minute, this is a cube with one single face on the top, one on each side. But if I go to length, width and height segments here, I can increase this and you'll see that the model is being subdivided. Now I can subdivide this as much or as little as I want. Well, I'll just go 3 by 3 by 3. And what this is doing is splitting it into a larger number of polygons. Polygon is this little shape here, the little subdivided shape enclosed by the white lines. So we have 9 polygons on the top, 9 on the side, 9 on the other side. So we've got a primitive, we've set the size of it, and we've set the number of segments in it. This is what we would want to do as the basic building block for whatever we're modeling. But there's not much we can do with that. So what do we do next? Generally, what we're going to do is when we're ready to start creating a more complex shape, we want to take this primitive and we want to right click on it and choose Convert to Editable Poly. There's a few other options here. Editable Mesh is kind of an older option. We don't really use too much, but it does have its uses. A few of these other ones useful for different things, but when we are making games or making models for animation, 9 times out of 10, or at least in my experience, we go Editable Poly. So we click that, Editable Poly, and you're going to notice something happens here. This wee secondary tab, it's changed now. Instead of having just the size data, length, width, height, and the number of segments, we now have a lot more options in here. There's a lot more stuff going on. Editable Poly we can do a lot more stuff with. We will get into detail with this as we go forward. Hundreds and hundreds of options in there. A lot of them are only kind of important in context. I'm going to be creating loads of videos and we'll tackle wee bits and pieces as we come to it. So don't worry too much about all the stuff that's going on in here now. The only thing that I want to highlight your attention to is what are these objects actually made of? What do they consist of? We have 5 wee elements here on this wee panel. 5 wee buttons, and we're going to talk about 3 of them, the 3 most important ones. If we click on one of them, it'll turn blue, and that puts us into what's called sub-object mode. So our cube is an object, and each of these wee buttons is a sub-object, an element within that object. So the first wee one here, it looks like 3 wee dots, is what's called vertex mode. Vertex is the smallest element of a 3D object. If you look at this, and it looks like it's basically created of a mesh of squares, at the corner of each mesh is what's called a vertex, and a vertex is just a single point in space. And when we went to vertex mode, you'll see those little vertexes are highlighted with a blue dot. If we select it, it turns to a red dot, and we can select multiple of them, and they all turn red to show which ones we have selected. As I say, these are a single point in space, and this is our smallest unit of data, and all meshes are basically a connection of vertexes and the connections between them. So I can take my move tool and I can start moving vertexes around and turn this shape into something a bit more complex. So you can see we can manipulate that cube just by moving the individual vertexes. The next element that we have, the next most important one, is what we call the edge. Now, a vertex is a single point in space. Once we have 2 vertexes, we can connect them with a line. So we have vertex 1, vertex 2, and there can be a line between them. So I can select these individual lines on the mesh. Hopefully, resolution, you can see this here. That line turns red when we have it selected. Same thing, I can select multiple of them at once. And I can do all kinds of fancy stuff where I can select entire loops around the mesh and things like that. I'll explain more about that later. But the important thing is, yes, we can select these edges, and an edge is basically a connection between 2 vertices. And I can take that and I can move it and manipulate that shape just by moving the edges. So vertex is a single point, edge is the line connecting between 2 points, and our next most important one, we're going to skip this wee third icon, and we're going to go to the 4th one. It's a little blue square, and this is our polygon mode. Polygon sub-object mode lets us basically select any one of these surfaces that is enclosed by our edges or little white lines. And again, we can move these and manipulate them. So what is a polygon? You'll hear the term polygon used a lot in 3D modeling. A vertex is our smallest space, An edge is just a line between two vertexes, but once we have three vertexes in a triangle shape, we can have a solid area between those three vertexes. A polygon is a shape with a minimum of three corners. So if I look on my sphere here, actually, let me just select this. You'll see that the majority of these are four-sided polygons, but up at the top here, we have triangles connecting into this point at the top. A triangle is the smallest polygon shape that we can have. Now, interesting thing about polygons, although a triangle is the smallest shape we can have, 3ds Max normally shows us squares, shows us four-sided polygons. Reason for that being, first of all, they're easier for our mind to kind of work out what's going on if things are broken into nice squares and lines and columns of polygons. Also, four-sided polygons animate and bend and flex a lot better than three-sided polygons. We'll get into that a bit more as we go down the line, but basically, rule of thumb, four sides good, three sides less good, and we want to avoid ever having polygons that are five-sided or six-sided or more. We always want to keep nice squares. There are exceptions to that rule, but you as a beginner, I want you to just think four sides is good. So that is us vertexes, edges, and polygons. A wee thing you might notice, a common mistake for beginners here is you're selecting this object and you've done what you want to do, and now you want to go on and work on the sphere or whatever, and you're selecting on it, but you can't seem to select it. You're always staying within this one and you can't select it. That is because when we are working on the vertex mode or the edge mode, we're in sub-object mode, as that's known as. When we're working on either the vertexes, the edges, or polys, we're in what's called sub-object mode. When we're working on that, we can only select that object. So I can't select the sphere, I can't select this cone. How I get out of that? There's two ways of doing it, really, really easy. You can see here, one of these will be highlighted blue that we have selected. We'll just click it again, and it will deselect it, and now we're back in our main object selection mode. We're no longer in sub-object mode, we're in our main object selection mode where we can select any object. Another way that we can select that might be handier for you. If I go into, say, polygon mode here, where I'm selecting individual polys, and again I can't select any other object, what I can do is right click on that object, and you see we've got a whole big menu here, but we have round about the middle on the left hand side, we have element, polygon, border, edge, vertex, and down at the bottom we have top level. So these five here are exactly the same as these five wee buttons. The other two that we didn't talk about were element and border, but polygon, edge, vertex, they're the exact same five options as these wee five buttons here. And the bottom one is top level. So if we click on top level, that takes us out of sub-object mode and back into our main object mode. The other wee thing just with sub-object and main object mode, we can move stuff about, move the entire object, we can move this sphere. In sub-object mode, we can't do that. We're only selecting the individual wee parts. Apologies for the delay here. Again, my laptop does not like streaming. But if we select these, we can move a group of them. But we can only move stuff when we have those sub-objects selected. So here I've got a couple of vertexes selected. I can move them about, as you can see. And with nothing selected, my wee indicator disappears. And I can't move the whole object. I have to deactivate vertex mode, I have to deactivate sub-object mode, and then my cursor appears again. You'll see this 3-axis cursor. Should I save this for the next video? No, I'll show you this now. Actually, another wee tip, really useful, something that catches out a lot of students when they first start 3D modeling. We have this cursor here. So 3D takes place in 3 dimensions. If you're familiar with drawing graphs in school, we would have went across the page, we went up the page, and that was our x-axis and our y-axis. 3D, we bring in the third dimension, which is the z-axis, and basically our 3D modeling works the same way. What we're looking at here, this grey space, is a 3D world, and positional data on it is recorded on those three axes. You can see there's a grid on the ground here, giving you two axes. We've got the x-axis, which goes lefty righty. That's the red one. We have the y-axis, which goes uppy downy, or rather in this case it goes back and forth. And then we have the z-axis, which takes us to the third dimension, which is up and down. And you can see our other windows here. If we're looking at the left view or the top view, we can see a better idea of where those things are moving. And we can be a bit more precise with them if I zoom in on these. 3 dimensions, 3 axes, x, y, z, and they follow along with this grid. The x and the y follows along with this grid on the ground. Easy enough to wrap your head around, not really much more to say. One wee thing. Oops, what was I wanting to do there? No, in fact, we'll leave it there for this video. We'll leave it there. That'll do it. I'll cut it off there. Next video, I'm going to talk a wee bit more about the UI. But that is our very basics of what a 3D mesh consists of, and some of the key pitfalls you might find when you're modeling. Okay, we'll see you for the next video, and we'll move on.